All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is. It is interview time, and we got one of the best underground artists. In my personal opinion, we got the one, the only, Dirty Needles. How you doing this evening?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. First and foremost, man, I have to say, when MJ sent me your music, I absolutely love your newest record, man. It's absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much for what you're doing for the culture of hip hop. And you know, man, if you keep making that music, I'm most definitely gonna keep spinning it.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks a lot.
You are most certainly welcome, man. And taking you right back to the beginning, like, what made you decide to get into the music industry initially?
Initially, I first started rhyming because I wanted to fit in with the cool kids at the pool table, and through the course of that, I managed to gain an appreciation and a love for not only the music but the culture that surrounds it. This was back when I was in eighth grade, and I've kind of been rolling with it ever since. It's kind of like one of the only things in life I'm good at, so I figure why not give it everything I have.
Hey, man, most definitely. I have to say, you are great at what you do, man. Like I said, your music is absolutely phenomenal, and not a lot of artists can really bring it to the table like you. I can most definitely see you going mainstream for sure.
Oh, wow, I appreciate that. It's always been a dream of mine, so each day I keep trying to push to that goal.
If you don't mind me asking, it's like I really do like I said, your flow to your music. If you don't mind me asking, like what really like inspired you? Like what artist really gave you like what artist inspired you to really get into this music tip?
Oh, well, one of the first artists who inspired me was Fight Dog from a Tribe Called Quest. I felt we were kindred spirits in a sense because we were both short, dark skinned with acne, so we at least had the short thing in common until I had a growth spurt that year. But it was him, Pharaoh Monch. Um, those are the ones early on in the days that inspired me. And then as time progressed, there was Eminem, Superstition, Black Thought. These are the guys I constantly listen to for inspiration to push the pen.
And man, also I noticed as well that you were actually part of the collective, the Audioholics. I have to ask you, tell us a bit more about that, and how did that come to be for you? Because that's probably a really catchy name, the Audioholics.
Oh, yes, the Audioholics. There was this site in the early to mid 2000s where unsigned underground artists would go and they would post songs on the message board and they would get critiqued. And we would tell each other what we need to work on to get better. And it definitely helped all of us to get better with our craft as far as writing and artistry and things of that nature. So, yeah, it was definitely a wonderful time. And sometimes I kind of miss it because it was, it was pure. There's message boards and everything now, but it's not the way that it was back in the day. And maybe that's nostalgia talking, but when it came to the Audioholics, you got a sense of family. You got a sense of, everybody not necessarily trying to compete with each other, but to push each other. Because if one person wins, then everybody wins.
That's most definitely true, and you don't really see very many message boards around the internet anymore either. Everything's all strictly social media or apps nowadays.
Yeah, man, I don't know what happened. I don't know when it changed, but I think David Blaine pulled a trick on all of us. He said abracadabra, and before you know it, social media was here.
Yeah, most definitely. I think you know what I mean. It is what it is, but hopefully down the line, like everyone always says, there's certain phases in everything, right? So hopefully, that fading out, maybe it will fade back in a couple of years, and we'll get that nostalgia back with the message boards.
Yeah, everything is cyclical. So I believe everything that goes out eventually comes back. So, it's only a matter of time. It's all about waiting it out. But in the meantime, you have to grow and adapt.
Most definitely true, man. Most definitely. But also in 2017, you actually released your debut album entitled Finally. I have to ask you, what's the inspiration behind that amazing album? And of course, is it still available to be purchased today?
Yes, it is still available to be purchased. It's on all streaming platforms, or you can get it from my website, which is dirtyneedles330.com. That's dirtyneedles330.com. Um, as far as the inspiration behind it, it's just, my life story up until that point. One half of the album is me just barring out, rapping for my life, and then the other half of the album is me getting more personal, as my best friend called it. A counseling sesh, and a lot of things happened between the making of that album. I found love, I settled down, I lost my best friend. Just a lot of life experiences happened in between making that record. And the reason I called it Finally is because finally I actually completed a project. Finally, I can put something out with my name on it. It should have been out a long time ago, but, good things come to those who wait. And I hope God thinks I'm great because I've been waiting.
Most definitely. And one thing I do want to ask you as well, with your album Finally, do you have any hard copies available? I know it's probably a hard no on that one, just judging by how like the age of the record. But I do know that a lot of our listeners do love that old school nostalgic compact disc, man. So if you have any available, how can our listeners actually hit you up for hard copy?
Sadly, I do not have any hard copies available. I had hard copies available for a limited run when the album first released, and I was shocked that I actually sold them all. So that was an accomplishment in and of itself. So right now, unfortunately, the only way to get the record is digitally. But if there's enough interest in it, I can press up some more for essential second print run.
And also, yeah, I noticed that you have done some extensive work with producer called Collective. I have to ask you, how did you get connected with him? And do you guys have any new projects currently in the works?
Oh yes, Collective. I met him through a movement called Cypher Circuit. We met back in 2017. We're both from Ohio. I'm from Cleveland. He's from Cincinnati. And we linked up at one of the ciphers, and he actually did a song on the first album, and then we worked together for the second one entitled Paradise. Currently, we are working on the follow-up to Paradise. It's called the Loot Box EP. It's loosely based off, you know, my love for video games and his as well. So we have titles that tie it in and things of that nature. So we're looking to drop that in 2021. Right now, about 3 records in as far as recording it.
And when you also said that you're like a huge video gamer, man, the one question I really have, because I'm personally a video gamer myself, and I was actually wondering, like, what type of system do you play? And of course, man, what is one of your favorite video games of all time? It could be like, past or present.
Okay, I own just about every system, but currently I'm splitting my time between PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. And my favorite game of all of them, I'll actually have to give two here. The first is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, because when that game came out, I was on the cusp of adulthood of 17, and that actually helped get me through a very rocky period in my life with almost losing my mother that year. So I played a lot of Legend of Zelda as a form of escape. And then another one that's my favorite will go more recent. I'll say Uncharted 4.
Hey, man, you
I
can't go wrong with
love,
Uncharted, man.
yes,
Phenomenal game.
yes. I love Nathan Drake. I feel like I'm playing Indiana Jones every time I pop the disc in.
Hey man, most definitely one of my favorite video games of all time is Super Mario 64. Man, I don't know. I played that when I was a kid. I'm now like in my late 20s, man, and I still play that like I'm 10 all over again.
Oh man, that's what's up. Did you happen to get the 3D All Stars collection that Nintendo just dropped?
I haven't had the opportunity. No, I'm a PS4 gamer myself. It's actually I live in a very rural area, so it's really hard to actually come across good video games. Actually, where I am, I live in a little hick town of like 3,000 people, so it's a little hard to actually find like some good video games around my area.
Oh man, that sucks. Well, Amazon is your friend.
Hey man, most definitely, most definitely, I gotta say that. But also, man, I also noticed that you did a collaboration with T Life as well. Sorry, T Life and Slit as well, man. I want to ask you, how did you get connected with T Life and Slit? And of course, where can our listeners actually check out that collaboration?
Yes, those guys are also from Cypher Circuit. Um, but T Life, if I'm not mistaken, he's out of Chicago, and Slick, that's another Ohio boy. You know, he used to do records with Crooked Eye back in the day. So, you know, we linked up, and the song is actually on my SoundCloud. SoundCloud, um, SoundCloud.com, Dirty Needles 330. Just type that in, and it'll pop right up.
Hey man, most definitely. Make sure you guys actually check that out. Make sure you follow him. And I do gotta say, Dirty Needles, man, you know, I also noticed as well, this is one of my favorite projects by you, because I always do my research when I actually do these interviews. And I have to say as well, man, in 2017, you were actually featured on Macaree's Why Is Daddy Crying, man? I have to ask you, you tell us a story behind that amazing song, 'cause that's probably one of the most inspirational songs I personally have ever heard.
Oh yes, MCRE. That's another Cypher Circuit guy. Um, the story behind that song is they used to post verses on IG a lot during that time. And that was one of the verses that I posted. Now, I don't have any children personally, so I was coming from the aspect of why I don't want kids, because that's a fear in the back of my mind. And he and that spoke to him because he has children, he's married in the whole nine, but from his first wife, he has a kid, and she's been taking him through hell with family court. So he wanted to add that aspect to the record, and then we could bring it all together and hopefully unite people and open up some eyes. But that was one of my favorite records because it wasn't even supposed to be a song, but it turned into a song. And I do go back to it from time to time and listen. I definitely need to do another song with him. It's been too long.
And also, on June 30th of this year, you actually dropped a brand new record. I have to ask you, tell us a story behind that amazing record, and of course, where can our listeners buy or stream themselves a copy?
Yes, the album is called Cathartic, and if you look at the album cover, it's me holding my heart in my hand, basically giving it to the listener because I poured my heart into that album. It was actually emotionally draining by the time it was done because I touched on a lot of things in my life that I thought I was over, but then once you open Pandora's box, it's hard to close. Um, like I said, it's inspired from situations on my life where I was surprised I was able to navigate and traverse through. Like I have a song on there talking about the time I almost became a teenage parent and, losing that child to a miscarriage. I talk about the situation where I said earlier with my mother. I talk about mental health issues and going to the therapist, and the therapist don't have any answer for you but some pills and hope they can just give you some pills and push you along the way. And talking about all of that and rehashing all of those memories, it did a number on me. Once I finished the record, I couldn't even look at a microphone listen to a beat, nothing. I had to regroup. But it's not at all sad. There are happy moments on the record as well. Get that album on all streaming platforms, as well as my website, dirtyneedles330.com. And you type in Cathartic, and it'll pop up. It's also on my Bandcamp, which is bandcamp.com/dirtyneedles330, or just type in dirtyneedles330, and it should pop right up. And then you can hear for yourself.
And also, directly after this interview, I'm going to be playing one of your newest tracks titled Making It, featuring Alexa Gold. I have to ask you, tell us a little bit more about that song. That way, when our listeners hear it, they can wrap their head around the meaning just a little bit more.
Oh, yes. Making it, I'm coming from a musical aspect where, as an artist, you're trying to make it in the industry, but it can be applied to anything in life, especially given the pandemic that we're in, where regardless of race or age or social economic status, we're all just trying to make it. And this is basically what the record is about. Just no matter what your situation in life is, you're just trying to make it to the next day. You're just trying to make it day by day. And that's basically what the song is. I'm coming from it from a musical aspect, but it can be applied to, it can be applicable to anything else in life.
And I have to ask you, what is next for Dirty Needles, man? Like, is there anything I happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you still want to promote? Will we still have you here live on the radio station?
Oh, yes. The Making It music video will be out at the end of this month. So there is that. Cathartic in digital stores right now. You can check that out. I also have older records. I have the Paradise EP and my first album, Finally. You can check all those out on my website. I have music videos. You can check that out on my YouTube, youtube.com/dirtyneedles330. Just type in Dirty Needles 330 on Google, and it'll pull up everything that you need to know about me.
And I gotta say, Dirty Needles, man, it was an absolute honor and a privilege to welcome such a talented individual on 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM. I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy evening. It was an absolute honor, man. And I hope you have yourself a wonderful night. And I'm looking forward to more of your projects that you have in the works when they do actually get released.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on and providing a platform for underground artists to get their voices out there.
Hey, man, you are most certainly welcome. I just have a love for real hip-hop, man. Unfortunately, real hip-hop isn't mainstream anymore, man. It actually went underground, so... And that's where I gotta be.
Yeah, man, we gotta do what we gotta do. Go to where the good music is at.
I most definitely agree there, Needles. Thank you so much again, man. You have yourself a wonderful night.
All right, you too, man.